My name is Bobbie Matthews, and at 32 years old, I never expected to become the topic of a viral business scandal. After 8 years at Apex Innovations, climbing from entry-level to Senior Financial Analyst, I thought I understood corporate politics. Then I met Marcus Hammond, our new CFO, with an Ivy League ego bigger than his portfolio. When I discovered his $7.8 million accounting error, I had a choice: quietly fix it or let him learn the hard way. The decision I made changed everything at our company forever. If you have ever been undervalued at work or had your ideas dismissed, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Trust me, what happened next is something every corporate worker dreams about. Apex Innovations stands as one of Seattle's premier tech companies. From the outside, our 40-story glass building reflects the clouds and Puget Sound in equal measure. Inside, open concept floors buzz with engineers, marketers, and finance teams like mine. I spent my days in a corner of the 28th floor surrounded by spreadsheets, financial models, and the constant pressure to perform. My journey to Senior Financial Analyst wasn't easy. After earning my accounting degree from Washington State, I worked through nights and weekends to get my CPA certification. For the past 3 years, I attended night classes to complete my MBA, graduating just 6 months before this story begins. Each step forward required twice the effort of my male counterparts, something every woman in finance understands without explanation. Our finance team consisted of several key players. Rachel Kim, my closest ally, held the position of tax compliance manager. At 39, she had weathered corporate politics longer than I had and offered wisdom when situations turned difficult. Derek Peterson, ambitious and always wearing perfectly pressed shirts, competed rather than collaborated as my peer analyst. Jessica Roberts, fresh from college, with wide eyes and boundless energy, had joined our team 3 months prior. I took her under my wing, recognizing my younger self in her eagerness. The culture at Apex prioritized results above all else. Our CEO frequently reminded us that we were measured by numbers, not intentions. This philosophy trickled down through every department. When the company announced record earnings the previous quarter, champagne appeared in the break room, but everyone understood the unspoken message: and keep performing or someone hungrier will take your place. My reputation within the finance department centered on my meticulous attention to detail. Twice yearly audits never revealed errors in my work. In fact, I developed a talent for catching mistakes others missed. This skill earned me respect from most colleagues, but also created resentment among those whose errors I identified. Enter Marcus Hammond, our Chief Financial Officer, who joined Apex 18 months ago from a competitor. Everything about Marcus announced his importance before he spoke a word. His Harvard MBA framed prominently behind his desk, custom-tailored suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent, a perpetual expression suggesting everyone around him operated at an intellectual deficit. From our first meeting, Marcus dismissed my input despite my institutional knowledge. During my presentation on quarterly projections, he interrupted, repeatedly explained basic concepts I had mastered years ago, and eventually took credit for my recommendation on tax liability reduction. This pattern continued through subsequent meetings. He would ask a question, ignore my response, then later present my exact analysis as his own brilliant insight. "Bobbie, when you have more experience, you will understand the bigger picture," became his favorite phrase, despite my 8 years at the company, compared to his 18 months. The Meridian project represented our largest acquisition to date, a $300 million investment in a promising software platform that complemented our existing products. As Senior Financial Analyst, I led the financial due diligence team, examining every aspect of Meridian's books. The pressure ran high, with daily updates required and weekly presentations to the executive team. I maintained professionalism, despite Marcus undermining my authority. In meetings, he would redirect questions meant for me to himself. When I raised concerns about Meridian's accounts receivable aging, he waved them away as unnecessary worry from the junior team. I was 32 years old with nearly a decade of experience, yet somehow permanently junior in his presence. Office politics intensified around the project. Derek frequently scheduled private meetings with Marcus, emerging with smug smiles. The gender dynamics were impossible to ignore. Male analysts received invitations to golf outings and after-work drinks where real decisions happened. Women received extra scrutiny and less recognition. Despite everything, I loved my job and believed in my contributions to Apex. Each night, I returned to my small but comfortable apartment in Queen Anne, often working additional hours to ensure nothing slipped through the cracks. My attention to detail had saved the company from costly mistakes before. I never imagined how significant that skill would become. December arrived with Seattle's perpetual rain and performance review anxiety. For financial teams, December meant closing preliminary year-end reports while simultaneously preparing for tax season. The workload doubled while daylight hours shortened, creating a pressure cooker environment throughout the department. 2 weeks before reviews, I discovered a compliance issue in our international subsidiary reporting. Rather than flagging it and moving on, I spent the entire weekend developing a comprehensive solution. My apartment floor disappeared under stacks of regulations and precedent cases. By Monday morning, I had not only identified the problem, but created a framework that saved Apex from a potential $200,000 regulatory fine. I presented my findings to Marcus with detailed documentation. His response: a cursory glance, and forward this to legal. Next time, give me the executive summary instead of all these details. As performance reviews approached, I researched industry-standard bonuses for my position. Given my contributions to the Meridian acquisition, the compliance save, and my consistent performance, comparable professionals received bonuses ranging from 15 to 20% of their base salary. I prepared my self-assessment, accordingly documenting specific achievements with measurable outcomes. The morning of my review, I selected my most professional outfit, a charcoal pantsuit with subtle pinstripes and low heels. I applied minimal makeup and secured my light brown hair in a neat bun, the armor of corporate America's professional woman. Marcus's corner office occupied prime real estate on the 30th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Mount Rainier on clear days. His desk, a massive slab of polished mahogany, remained perpetually clear, except for his laptop and a single notepad. No family photos humanized the space. No personal touches suggested interests beyond work. The office, like the man, projected power through deliberate sterility. I sat straight-backed in the visitor's chair while Marcus scrolled through his phone for 3 full minutes before acknowledging my presence. Power move 1 demonstrate that my time valued less than his momentary distractions. Bobbie, let us make this efficient, he began, finally setting his phone aside. Your technical work meets expectations. Your attention to detail is noted, though sometimes you focus too much on minutiae rather than strategic perspectives. I maintained my professional expression despite the sting. What he called minutiae had saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars multiple times. As for your bonus, he continued, sliding a paper across the desk, you will receive $4,000. The figure represented less than 2% of my base salary. Given my performance and industry standards, I had anticipated at least $20,000. This seems significantly below standard for my position and contributions. I responded, keeping my voice measured. The Meridian acquisition due diligence alone required over 300 hours of overtime, and my compliance framework saved substantial regulatory penalties. Marcus leaned back, a thin smile appearing. Your bonus. Consider it a rounding error, reallocated to where it actually matters. I nodded, recognizing the subtext. The money had been distributed elsewhere, likely to his executive allies or pet projects. My contributions, regardless of impact, remained invisible to those controlling compensation. If you want larger bonuses, perhaps focus more on strategic initiatives rather than back-office functions, he added already, reaching for his phone to signal our meeting had concluded. Back at my desk, I discovered I wasn't alone in my disappointment. Rachel received a similarly insulting bonus, despite identifying a tax strategy that saved millions. Jessica, despite stellar performance reviews, received nothing as she was too new. Only Derek seemed satisfied, hinting at a 5-figure sum with a smug smile. We gathered for lunch at a small Thai restaurant 2 blocks from the office. Away from corporate surveillance, frustrations poured out. 8 years I have given this company, Rachel whispered fiercely over her pad thai. 8 years of perfect work, and what do I get? A bonus that barely covers 1 month of my daughter's college textbooks. Jessica pushed her food around, eyes downcast. I knew being new meant lower expectations, but nothing. Not even a token amount. My roommate at Microsoft got $6,000 as a first-year analyst. The conversation continued in this vein, each revelation stoking my growing indignation. We returned to the office, collectively demoralized but individually determined to push forward. What choice did we have in Seattle's competitive job market? That afternoon, reviewing Meridian integration documents, I noticed a discrepancy. A milestone payment schedule referenced as Schedule B appeared in the main contract, but the supporting documentation seemed incomplete. Normally, I would have immediately flagged this for review, but Marcus's dismissive words echoed in my mind. Instead, I made a note to investigate further when time permitted. The office atmosphere deteriorated over subsequent days. Forced holiday cheer collided with post-review depression. The finance department split into winners and losers, with lunch groups reorganizing along bonus lines. Marcus remained oblivious or indifferent to the morale collapse, continuing to demand weekend work and last-minute reports. Alone in my apartment that weekend, I questioned my value and future at Apex. 8 years of loyalty, thousands of hours of overtime, an MBA earned through sleep-deprived determination, all to be dismissed as a rounding error. Something had to change, but I wasn't yet sure what that change would look like. The following Tuesday, I worked late, finalizing year-end projections. Around 9:30, the office stood nearly empty, except for the occasional security guard making rounds. The finance floor, normally buzzing with activity, had gone silent, except for the gentle hum of the HVAC system and my keyboard clicks. A system notification appeared on my screen: server maintenance in progress, temporary access granted to shared folders for data integrity verification. This routine maintenance usually happened monthly, temporarily lifting certain access restrictions to ensure file consistency. With my immediate deadlines met and curiosity about the Schedule B discrepancy still nagging, I decided to use this expanded access to investigate further. I navigated to the Meridian acquisition folders, normally restricted to executives and the core deal team. The folder structure revealed chaotic organization with duplicate files and inconsistent naming conventions. After 30 minutes of searching, I located a subfolder labeled Integration Requirements, containing the elusive Schedule B documentation. Opening the files, I began cross-referencing with the main contract. Schedule B outlined specific technical integration milestones that Apex was contractually obligated to complete within 9 months of acquisition. Each milestone carried specific requirements and testing protocols. My breath caught as I read further. Buried in paragraph 27, failure to complete all integration milestones by the specified integration date shall trigger an acceleration payment of $7,800,000 due within 72 hours of the specified integration date. I checked the specified date, January 18th, 3 days from now. Frantically, I searched for documentation showing milestone completion status. Our technical teams always tracked integration progress meticulously, but the shared folders contained no recent updates. I messaged Thomas from the integration team, still online despite the late hour. "Hey Thomas, quick question about Meridian integration milestones. Do you have a current status report?" His response arrived minutes later. "We're about 60% complete. Why?" My stomach dropped. Schedule B requires 100% completion by this Friday. There's a massive penalty clause. What first I'm hearing about any deadline? Marcus told us we had until end of quarter. I dug deeper, finding an email chain from 2 months earlier. Legal had flagged the approaching deadline to Marcus, who responded, "We will request an extension if needed." No need to alarm the technical teams with arbitrary deadlines. But no extension request appeared in any documentation. No contingency plan existed. I faced an ethical dilemma. I could immediately escalate, potentially saving the company millions, but likely facing Marcus's wrath for overstepping. Or I could document what I found and let events unfold naturally, allowing Marcus to face the consequences of his negligence. The next morning, I asked Rachel to coffee before work. In the safety of a crowded Starbucks, I outlined my discovery. "So let me get this straight," Rachel said, lowering her voice. "We're going to miss this deadline because Marcus never properly communicated it, and now we owe nearly $8 million. Unless something dramatic happens in the next 72 hours, yes. And you found this during server maintenance." I was investigating a discrepancy I noticed earlier. Everything I accessed was technically available to me during maintenance, though normally restricted. Rachel considered this, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. "What are you planning to do?" "That's why I wanted to talk. What's my professional responsibility here? If I bring this up, Marcus will either bury it or blame someone else. If I don't, the company loses millions." Document everything Rachel advised immediately. Time-stamped screenshots, access logs, the original contract language. Then implement whatever proper controls should have been in place originally following company policy exactly. She was right. Checking our compliance handbook, I discovered that all contractual deadlines with financial implications should be tracked in our central risk management system with automated alerts. Marcus had bypassed this system entirely for Schedule B. By mid-morning, I had created complete documentation and implemented the proper controls. The system now showed Schedule B's deadline prominently, with automated alerts set to trigger as required by company policy. I carefully crafted an email to Marcus, copying appropriate team members. During standard quarterly contract review, I've updated our risk management system to include all Meridian integration milestones per company policy section 5.3.2. System will generate standard alerts for approaching deadlines. See attached summary of upcoming contractual obligations. The email buried the critical information in technical language exactly as Marcus had done countless times when communicating downward. Everything now followed proper protocols, creating a paper trail that protected me while implementing the controls that should have existed months ago. The automatic alert would trigger at the 72-hour mark exactly as our policies required. 3 days from now, at precisely 3:12 p.m., Marcus would receive notification of the impending payment requirement, along with every other stakeholder specified in our risk management protocols. For the next 3 days, I maintained a detailed log of all activities and communications. I created a folder containing relevant company policies, particularly those Marcus himself had approved regarding contractual obligation tracking. I documented the original legal warning he had dismissed. Everything compiled in chronological order, ready if needed. Each time I passed Marcus in the hallway or sat through meetings where he dominated conversation, my anxiety spiked. Had he read my email thoroughly? Did he understand what was coming? His behavior suggested not, as he continued berating junior staff and taking credit for others' work without interruption. As the deadline approached, my sleep deteriorated. I questioned my decision repeatedly. Was I allowing personal grievances to influence my professional judgment? Should I have been more direct, despite knowing how Marcus typically responded to warnings? The morning of January 18th arrived with unusual sunshine breaking through Seattle's winter cloud cover. I dressed with particular care, selecting a navy blue suit that projected confidence. Whatever happened today would likely shape my career at Apex for better or worse. With 72 hours remaining before the deadline, I executed my strategy methodically. First, I created detailed documentation with timestamps and screenshots of everything I had discovered. Each file received proper naming conventions and secure backups both on our servers and my personal encrypted drive. I logged every action taken, noting when and why each step occurred. My next step required delicacy. Sandra Wilson, our Deputy General Counsel, had a reputation for strict adherence to protocols. Unlike some members of the legal team who aligned politically with executives, Sandra focused solely on protecting the company from liability. I scheduled a confidential meeting, listing the topic vaguely as contractual compliance questions. Sandra's office, unlike Marcus's showy space, contained functional legal texts and neatly organized case files. She looked up from her computer as I entered, her expression professional but guarded. "Bobbie, what contractual questions bring you here today?" she asked, gesturing toward the visitor chair. I chose my words carefully. I'm implementing proper tracking for some contractual deadlines that appear to have fallen through the cracks, specifically regarding Schedule B of the Meridian acquisition. Sandra's expression shifted subtly. Schedule B, the integration milestones. Yes, I noticed they weren't in our risk management system, despite the substantial financial penalty for non-compliance. I've added them per company policy, but wanted to confirm the legal team is properly looped in regarding the approaching deadline. Sandra turned to her computer, typing rapidly. Let me see. Yes, we flagged this to finance months ago. The response indicated finance would handle compliance tracking. She looked back at me, her expression now concerned. Are you saying this hasn't been tracked? It appears the proper controls were never implemented. I've corrected that oversight, but wanted to ensure legal has visibility since the deadline is approaching. She nodded slowly. Thank you for your diligence. I'll review the current status immediately. I left knowing Sandra would investigate independently, creating another official record of the situation. The conversation established that I had acted properly by implementing missing controls and notifying legal of the situation. Next, I built the automated alert system required by company policy. Our risk management software allowed for customized notifications based on deadline proximity. Following the exact specifications in our compliance handbook, I set up alerts to trigger at 72 hours, 48 hours, and 24 hours before the deadline, with final notification at the deadline itself. Each alert would automatically notify the responsible executive, Marcus, the legal team, the implementation team leads, and the financial controllers. The system logged each configuration change with my employee ID, creating an indelible record that I had followed proper procedures. With the technical components in place, I prepared my defense. In a secure folder labeled Meridian Integration Compliance, I organized 1. The original contract language highlighting the penalty clause. 2. Email records, showing legal, had warned finance about the deadline. 3. Documentation, proving the integration was nowhere near completion. 4. The compliance handbook, sections requiring proper deadline tracking. 5 records showing I had implemented the missing controls upon discovery. 6. Timeline of all relevant events, with supporting documentation. Everything organized to tell a clear story. The controls Marcus should have implemented months ago were only put in place when I discovered the oversight. I had followed company policy, exactly, nothing more or less. Throughout the 3-day countdown, Marcus remained oblivious to the approaching financial disaster. He continued his usual behavior, criticizing minor formatting issues in reports, while missing critical business risks. During the daily Meridian status meeting, he even praised the integration progress as excellent and on schedule, despite being months behind the contractual requirement. Each time I saw him confidently striding through the office or dismissing someone's input in meetings, my anxiety spiked. Would he somehow discover and deactivate the alerts? Would he find a last-minute solution that made my actions seem unnecessary? Should I have been more direct, despite knowing how he responded to perceived challenges from subordinates? The night before the deadline, I barely slept. My mind raced through potential scenarios, from immediate termination to grudging recognition. By morning, dark circles had formed under my eyes, despite my best concealer efforts. I arrived at the office an hour early, reviewing my documentation one final time, and ensuring all systems functioned properly. At our morning department meeting, Marcus announced a new cost-cutting initiative targeting operational inefficiencies, his gaze lingering on the female team members as he emphasized underperforming resources. The implied threat hung in the air as we returned to our desks. As 3 o'clock approached, my heartbeat accelerated. The automated alert would trigger at exactly 3:12 p.m., sending simultaneous notifications to all specified recipients. There would be no stopping it, no last-minute intervention. The system would perform exactly as designed, exactly as company policy required. I found myself hyper-aware of every sound, every movement around me, the clicking keyboards, the hushed phone conversations, the occasional laughter from the break room. Normal office activities continued while I alone knew what was about to unfold. At 3:10, I logged into the risk management system one last time, confirming the alert remained active. 2 minutes, 120 seconds until the corporate equivalent of a bomb detonated. At 3:11, I saw Marcus through his office glass wall, laughing on the phone, feet propped casually on his desk, completely unaware of what awaited him. At 3:12, I watched as he glanced at his phone, the smile fading from his face. At precisely 3:12 p.m., phones and computers throughout the executive floor chimed with simultaneous alerts. From my desk, I watched as Marcus's expression transformed from annoyance to confusion to alarm in rapid succession. He stared at his screen, his jaw slowly unhinging as the color drained from his face. The alert read exactly as company policy dictated: urgent contractual deadline alert. Kellard. Schedule B of Meridian acquisition requires completion of all integration milestones by 11:59 p.m. today. Current completion status 62%. Failure to meet deadline will trigger accelerated payment clause of $7.800000 due within 72 hours. This alert has been automatically generated by the risk management system per company policy. Through the glass walls of his office, I watched as Marcus jabbed frantically at his phone. Seconds later, my desk phone rang. My office. Now. His voice contained barely controlled fury. I gathered my prepared folder and walked calmly to his office, aware of curious glances following my path. Inside, Marcus paced behind his desk phone, pressed to his ear. "I don't care what the contract says. Find a way to extend the deadline," he barked into the phone before hanging up and turning his attention to me. "What the hell is this alert? Why am I just hearing about this now?" I maintained professional composure. The alert is generated by our risk management system for the Schedule B integration milestones in the Meridian contract. All contractual deadlines with financial implications are required to be tracked in the system per company policy. "I know what the policy is," he snapped. "Why is this only coming up today, hours before the deadline?" I discovered during routine contract review that Schedule B had not been properly entered into the tracking system. I implemented the required controls immediately upon discovery, as documented in my email to you 3 days ago. His eyes narrowed. Who else knew about this deadline? According to the records, legal notified finance about this deadline approximately 60 days ago. The technical implementation team was apparently told they had until the end of quarter. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang again. Sandra from legal, according to the display. He answered on speaker. "Please tell me we have options here." His voice attempted to reclaim its usual authority. "I have reviewed the contract thoroughly," Sandra replied, her tone crisp and professional. "The deadline is explicitly defined with no ambiguity. The penalty clause is legally binding. We have approximately 9 hours to complete all integration milestones, or the accelerated payment becomes due." "Is it technically possible to complete the remaining work today?" he demanded. "I've spoken with the implementation team. They estimate at least 3 more weeks for full integration based on current progress. They were unaware of today's contractual deadline." Marcus's face flushed. "Get everyone in conference room Alpha. Now. Legal, technical, finance. Everyone." Within 15 minutes, conference room Alpha filled with anxious executives and team leads. Marcus stood at the head of the table, attempting to project control over the rapidly deteriorating situation. "We have a situation with the Meridian integration," he began. "It appears legal failed to properly communicate a critical deadline to the implementation teams." Sandra interjected immediately. "For the record, legal sent formal notification to finance on November 10th, flagging the January 18th deadline and the associated penalty clause. We received confirmation that finance would handle implementation tracking." All eyes turned to Marcus, who shifted strategies smoothly. There appears to have been a communication breakdown within the implementation teams then. Thomas from the technical team shook his head. "My team was specifically told by finance that we had until the end of March to complete integration. We planned our sprints accordingly." The room temperature seemed to rise as accusations flew. Marcus attempted to redirect blame to various departments, but each had documentation contradicting his claims. Throughout the increasingly heated discussion, I remained silent, observing. Finally, Marcus turned his attention to me. "Bobbie, explain how you suddenly discovered this issue just 3 days ago when apparently everyone else knew about it months ago." This was the moment I had prepared for. I opened my folder and spoke clearly. During routine contract review last week, I noticed Schedule B referenced integration milestones with specific deadlines. When I checked our risk management system, I found these milestones were not being tracked as required by company policy. I slid copies of the relevant documentation across the table. Upon discovering this oversight, I immediately implemented the proper controls per our Compliance Handbook Section 5.3.2. The system automatically generates alerts at 72:48 and 24 hours before contractual deadlines, with financial implications exceeding $1 million. "And you didn't think to verbally notify anyone of the urgency?" Marcus demanded. "I followed standard protocols exactly as outlined in our Compliance Handbook," I replied, sliding another document forward. My email notification included the approaching deadline information. Additionally, the risk management system is designed specifically to ensure all stakeholders are properly notified of contractual obligations, which is why today's alert went to all relevant parties simultaneously. The conference room door opened as CEO Allison Parker and 3 board members joined by video conference, their faces appearing on the large screen at the end of the room. The situation had officially escalated to the highest level. Can someone explain why I'm hearing about a potential $8 million penalty from my golf partner at Meridian rather than my own team? Allison asked, her calm tone belying the severity of the question. For the next hour, the entire sequence of events unfolded for executive review. Each person presented their perspective with supporting documentation. Throughout the discussion, one fact became increasingly clear: the missing controls that should have prevented this situation were Marcus's direct responsibility. "Let me understand correctly," said Board Member Franklin, after the presentations concluded. "We have no technical way to meet this deadline today." "Correct," Thomas confirmed. "Even with all teams working through the night, we would achieve perhaps 70% completion at best." "And there are no contractual loopholes or extension provisions," Franklin continued. "None," Sandra confirmed. "The language is explicit and legally binding." "So, we are definitely paying the $7.8 million penalty," Allison stated flatly. The room fell silent as the reality sank in. Millions of dollars lost due to preventable oversight. In that silence, Marcus made his final attempt to redirect blame. If Bobbie had flagged this issue when she first noticed it, rather than just implementing some automated alert, we might have had time to negotiate with Meridian. Before I could respond, Sandra interjected. "According to the documentation, Miss Matthews followed company protocols exactly as written. The controls that should have been in place months ago were implemented immediately upon her discovery of the oversight. The alert system functioned precisely as designed." Allison's gaze fixed on Marcus. "It seems the question isn't why we received an alert today, but rather why proper tracking wasn't implemented when legal first notified finance of this deadline 2 months ago." Marcus had no answer that could withstand the paper trail contradicting any defense he might offer. The meeting concluded with Allison directing the legal team to process the penalty payment, while the board excused themselves to discuss next steps privately. As we filed out of the conference room, the magnitude of what had transpired hung heavily in the air. A preventable $7.8 million mistake had been exposed, with responsibility clearly traced to the executive who had dismissed so many of us as mere rounding errors in the company's financial equation. The aftermath unfolded rapidly. By the following morning, Apex filed the required Securities and Exchange Commission disclosure, reporting a material financial event. The filing used careful corporate language, but the essential facts remained clear. Apex Innovations would pay a $7.8 million penalty due to failure to meet contractual integration deadlines from the Meridian acquisition. Within hours, financial blogs picked up the story. "Apex takes $8 million hit on missed deadline," read one headline. Another more pointedly asked, "Integration oversight or executive negligence? Apex's costly mistake raises questions." By afternoon, mainstream business publications joined the coverage. The Wall Street Journal ran an analysis piece examining the implications for shareholder value. CNBC featured a segment questioning Apex's internal controls and executive oversight. Bloomberg published a detailed timeline of the acquisition and subsequent integration failure. Social media transformed the story from business news to viral sensation. The hashtag #CFO fail started trending among finance professionals, followed quickly by number rounding error after an anonymous source leaked Marcus's infamous bonus meeting comment. Creative memes appeared showing various $8 million purchases labeled as rounding errors. One particularly popular image showed a yacht with the caption, "Just a rounding error reallocated to where it actually matters." My LinkedIn profile suddenly received hundreds of connection requests from industry peers I had never met. Messages poured in, many from finance professionals, sharing similar experiences with dismissive executives. Several contained job offers with pointed references to valuing attention to detail. Internally, the company launched a comprehensive audit of all acquisition agreements and contractual obligations. The preliminary findings revealed a pattern of corner-cutting in financial controls, particularly in deals Marcus had personally overseen. Multiple deadlines had been narrowly met, often through last-minute scrambling rather than proper planning and tracking. 1 week after the Schedule B incident, the board of directors called an emergency meeting. I wasn't present, but rumors spread quickly. Marcus had been asked to resign effective immediately. A formal announcement followed that afternoon, citing differences in management philosophy regarding financial controls and compliance procedures. 2 days later, I received an email from Allison's assistant requesting my presence in the CEO's office. My stomach knotted as I made the journey to the executive floor, unsure whether I faced recognition or retaliation. Allison greeted me with unexpected warmth, gesturing toward a comfortable chair across from her desk rather than the more formal seating arrangement by the window. "Bobbie, thank you for coming. I've been reviewing your work history at Apex, particularly your handling of the Schedule B situation." She paused, studying me thoughtfully. "Your attention to detail and commitment to proper controls likely saved us from even greater financial and reputational damage." "I was just following company protocols," I replied cautiously. "That's precisely what impressed the board and myself. When you discovered a serious oversight, you didn't panic or point fingers. You simply implemented the correct controls and let the systems work as designed." She slid a folder across the desk. "We're creating a new position, Director of Financial Compliance. The role will oversee all contractual obligations and financial controls, reporting directly to the CFO, but with independent escalation authority to the Audit Committee." I opened the folder to find a job description with a salary nearly double my current compensation. "We'd like you to interview for the position," Allison continued. "Your handling of the Schedule B situation demonstrated exactly the qualities we need in this role." The conversation shifted to broader changes coming to Apex's financial governance structure. Allison outlined a more transparent bonus determination process, additional safeguards around acquisition, integration, and a renewed focus on recognizing contributions from all team members, regardless of title or tenure. As news of my potential promotion circulated, colleague reactions split predictably. Rachel and Jessica offered genuine congratulations. Derek avoided eye contact in the hallways. Some department members viewed me with newfound respect, while others whispered about opportunism when they thought I couldn't hear. The industry attention expanded beyond private messages. I received invitations to speak at 3 finance conferences about compliance controls and risk management. A prominent business school professor contacted me for an interview about ethical decision-making in corporate environments. A finance podcast wanted to feature my perspective on building effective control systems. The sudden visibility brought unexpected challenges. Social media users dug through my online history, looking for inconsistencies or controversial statements. Anonymous commenters debated whether I had acted out of company loyalty or personal vengeance. Former colleagues I hadn't spoken with in years suddenly remembered our connection and reached out seeking introductions or insider information. Each night I returned home to an increasingly full email inbox and notification feed. The attention that had initially felt validating gradually became overwhelming. I set boundaries, declined most interview requests, and focused on the internal changes at Apex where I could make the most difference. Through it all, I maintained professional composure, never publicly commenting on Marcus or the details beyond what appeared in official company statements. The high road proved exhausting but necessary, particularly as I interviewed for the director position against external candidates with impressive credentials. Throughout these weeks, I frequently questioned my decisions. Had I handled the situation optimally? Should I have been more direct earlier? Was I allowing the attention to change my professional identity? The answers evolved daily, as the situation continued unfolding around me. 6 months after the Schedule B incident, I settled into my new office on the executive floor. The Director of Financial Compliance position became mine after 3 rounds of increasingly technical interviews. My new responsibilities included overseeing a team of 6 compliance specialists tasked with ensuring all contractual obligations received proper tracking and monitoring. The glass walls offered a view of Elliott Bay on clear days, but more importantly, they symbolized the transparency I aimed to bring to Apex's financial operations. Where Marcus had operated behind closed doors with information closely guarded, my team published weekly compliance dashboards accessible to all department heads. Our first major initiative implemented a comprehensive financial controls framework that standardized how contractual obligations were documented, tracked, and reported. The system included clear escalation paths when deadlines approached, removing individual judgment from critical notification decisions. Perhaps most significantly, we redesigned the bonus structure to incorporate objective performance metrics rather than subjective executive assessments. Every employee could now see exactly how their contributions factored into compensation decisions, with quarterly reviews providing feedback long before annual determinations. The mentoring program I established for junior finance staff quickly became oversubscribed. Young professionals from across the company sought guidance not just on technical skills, but ethical decision-making and professional development. Jessica, now promoted to Senior Analyst, became my right hand in developing training materials that emphasized both compliance requirements and the why behind them. My personal healing journey proved more challenging than the professional transition. The first weeks after the incident brought conflicting emotions, vindication, mixed with guilt, confidence, intertwined with imposter syndrome. Had I orchestrated a justified professional correction or engaged in elaborate revenge? The question haunted me through several sleepless nights. Gradually, perspective emerged through conversations with trusted colleagues and my own reflection. I had discovered a genuine problem and implemented the solutions required by company policy. The system worked exactly as designed. Marcus faced consequences of his own actions, not my manipulation. This realization brought peace that eventually translated into renewed confidence. The new company culture we built valued substance over style, results over rhetoric. Rachel now led the tax department with proper recognition and compensation. Several women who had left during Marcus's tenure returned to a more equitable environment. Even Derek eventually adapted, learning that collaboration rather than competition advanced everyone's interests more effectively. Through this experience, I learned crucial lessons about valuing your own work when others don't. For years, I had sought external validation from supervisors who measured worth through arbitrary standards. The Schedule B incident taught me that professional value comes from consistent quality work and ethical decision-making, not corner office approval. Documentation proved its worth beyond any doubt. Without the meticulous paper trail establishing who knew what, and when Marcus might have successfully shifted blame to others. Every email, every system log, every meeting record contributed to the undeniable fact pattern that protected those who had followed proper procedures. The balance between justice and professionalism required constant calibration. While part of me felt satisfied seeing Marcus face consequences, maintaining professional conduct throughout the process protected my reputation and future opportunities. Revenge might provide momentary satisfaction, but integrity builds lasting career success. Most importantly, I recognize that true leadership means taking responsibility, not credit. Throughout my years at Apex, I had watched executives claim ownership of successes while distributing blame for failures. In my new role, I practiced the opposite approach, sharing recognition widely while personally addressing problems before they escalated. The experience transformed me professionally and personally. The analyst who once worked silently in the corner now confidently presented to the board. The professional who once accepted dismissive treatment now established boundaries and expectations. The woman who once questioned her value now recognized her essential contribution to organizational success. For those watching this who feel undervalued in their workplace, remember that attention to detail is never wasted. Documentation is your protection. Following proper procedures creates safety. And sometimes the system actually works as designed when you have the courage to implement it correctly. Have you ever discovered a critical error that others missed? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear that their attention to detail matters. Thank you for watching, and remember that in finance and in life, there are no such things as rounding errors when integrity is at stake.